May it please the court, opposing counsel, members of the jury. Devon's desperate decision. Devon Emerson was in deep to a loan shark from Chicago. Devon needed money, so he made the desperate decision to rob Aunt May and end her life. We, as the prosecution, bear the burden in today's case. That means it is our job for proving each element of today's case beyond a reasonable doubt. We do not have to rid you of all of the doubt in your mind. If we prove each element of the 3 counts of today's case beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find Devon Emerson guilty. Let's look at those 3 counts. The first count is murder in the first degree. We have to prove that the defendant took the life of Lois May Alcott with malice aforethought. There is no dispute in today's case that someone caused the death of Lois May. Malice aforethought can be proven by the use of a deadly weapon. A deadly weapon is an instrument, article, or substance that has been used, that when used has a great likelihood of causing injury or death. Whether or not an instrument has been used as a deadly weapon depends on the facts and circumstances of each case. The parties have stipulated in today's case that Aunt May was bludgeoned in the back of her head with a cast iron skillet, and that was the cause of death. Common sense tells us that a person who strikes another person in the back of the head with a cast iron skillet intends his or her actions. And common sense would tell that person that their actions have a great risk of causing injury or death. This was not an accident. The use of a deadly weapon, being the cast iron skillet, proves malice aforethought. There's one final element to this charge: identity. We'll get back to that. The second charge in today's case is arson in the second degree. We must prove that the defendant caused the burning of Emerson Hall and its contents and acted willfully and maliciously. The parties have stipulated in today's case that samples of evidence found after the fire were found soaked in a petroleum-based accelerant. Defense expert Parker Putnam has also testified today that the fire was intentionally set by a rag soaked in that same type of accelerant. This proves beyond any reasonable doubt that this fire was set willfully and maliciously. And as with murder, we have one final element: identity. We'll come back to that. The final count in today's case is armed robbery in the second degree. We must prove that the defendant carried away or attempted to carry away the property of Lois May with intent to permanently deprive Lois May of the property and keep the property while being armed with a deadly weapon. We've heard today from Mel Herman that Lois May put the collection money of All Souls Church into her bag after services on October 15th, 2015. On the morning of October 16th, when the purse was found, the money was missing. We also know that the robbery of Lois May occurred through the use of a deadly weapon because Aunt May was killed using that same cast iron skillet. That brings us to the final element of all 3 of these charges: identity. Devon Emerson lives on the homestead owned by Aunt May. When authorities searched Emerson's home, they found a wad of $1,637 in cash. Not only was this the exact amount of money Mel Herman told us that Aunt May put into her purse, it was also in the exact same denominations. This was the money that was taken during the robbery. We also know that authorities found Devon's footprints on a sand walking path that was a direct link between Devon Emerson's home and the main home. While we cannot definitively prove when these prints were made, we do know that they were made on a path subject to change over time due to the varying terrain of sand. Given this fact, we know that the prints were likely made near the time of discovery. Devon's shoes, the same ones that made the footprints on the path, were found with traces of a petroleum-based accelerant on it. Accelerant consistent with the accelerant found on the wad of money and consistent with the accelerant that was determined to be the start of this deadly fire. The accelerant on Devon's shoes was also consistent with the can of lighter fluid shown in Exhibit 2. This can was found discarded on the property after the fire. Before the fire, it was stored up on a shelf in the carport. Only 2 people knew where this can was. Those people were Devon and Jalen. And Jalen has an alibi. We also know that Devon Emerson was in deep with a loan shark from Chicago. Time was running out and Devon needed a plan. Emerson needed money, so Devon made the desperate decision to rob Aunt May, murder her in the same house she let him grow up in as a kid, and set her house ablaze to cover up his cold-blooded crimes. We, as the prosecution, have proved beyond any reasonable doubt that Devon Emerson is guilty of armed robbery in the 1st degree, arson in the 2nd degree, and 1st degree murder. Lois May Alcott was known to her community as Aunt May because of her kind and generous nature. Devon Emerson took advantage of that, and we ask that you hold Devon Emerson accountable by finding the defendant guilty of 1st degree armed robbery, 2nd degree arson, and the 1st degree murder of Lois May Alcott. Thank you.